Safety Veterans Subcommittee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we have call to the public. Any cards? We have no cards. All right. We're on item number 1, which is approval of the minutes.
Move approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We got 2 seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes. And we have consent items 2 through 8.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're on item number 9. It's information only. You all want some information on it, or?
No?
All right, then. We'll pass number 9. Everybody got briefed in their offices on that. And now we have item number 10, which we're talking about the authorization to arrest update. Hey, Madame, how you doing? And it's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee. I am Director Marshall Franklin with the Police Department, and I have with me this morning Commander Tom Van Dorn, who oversees our Community Relations Bureau, as well as our City Prosecutor, Vicki Hill. And we are here just to give you 2 quick updates on an item that was before you at your June subcommittee meeting, and it is the authority to arrest. And that is the document that the Phoenix Police Department can use when we have property owners who reach out because they have individuals that they want to trespass off of their property. And there were 2 specific issues that you brought up that you wanted us to come back to you on. The first one was currently our authority to arrest authorizations that we receive from property owners. Currently, we ask that they renew those once per year. And after further discussion and deliberation, it still is the recommendation coming from our department as well as from the City Prosecutor's Office that we maintain that 1-year renewal, if you will, of that form for a couple of different reasons, primarily just making sure that when we get those phone calls so that we can do what we need to do legally, we have the appropriate recommendation or authorization, if you will, to do that. And then the other question that you brought forth to us to research, is there the ability for individuals to be able to file that form electronically? And so we are working on that, and hopefully by the first of the year, we will have built the necessary interfaces so that individuals can submit those forms electronically, and then they upload to our department's records management system so that our officers in the field have immediate access to that. And with that, we are here to entertain any other questions that you may have. If not, that's all we have to share with you.
Any questions from my colleagues?
I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
Have you put this information out on Nextdoor?
I am Chairman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Williams. I am not sure yet. I don't know if you know, Commander. That will be something that we will do and can do. You're very welcome.
Director, one of the things that we've been talking about is individuals don't understand, or they're not notified that their renewal is expired. So sometimes people forget, sometimes it's maybe past a month or so. Is there an automatic way of notifying people, or through
Commander Van
email?
Dorn.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, yeah, we are currently discussing with ITB. Providing an email address will be a part of the electronic system, and hopefully the system will be set up to generate an automatic renewal as part of that process.
And those are the type of calls that we get from our office saying, well, we thought we were updated, but I guess we're not. So that was the concern. Councilmember, Vice Mayor?
I think we need to look at obviously you're looking at the technology, but for example, I belong to certain, I'm just gonna say, LA Fitness. And so my membership was coming up. So what ended up happening is a month in advance, I started receiving emails every other day saying, please renew your membership, please do this. If not, you know, your contract ends and then it becomes another price, however it works. But I got the renewals in the email. And then what happened is 2 weeks prior to the expiration date, I started to receive a call saying, are you still interested? It's going to expire. So can we set up a system very similar or around that, so that then there is also documentation on our side showing that we have sent an email, and then at that point probably you'll find out owners have changed, I no longer own that property, and then that piece can then start moving in that area, I guess.
Yeah, so Chairman Noakowski and Vice Mayor Pastor, most definitely that is our intention with creating the mechanism where we send the email notification that says it's almost ready to expire. Would you please resubmit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of the question about, I heard you talking about, you know, the calls and those types of things like LA Fitness does. I know that, I'm a member there as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That would be something we'll have to take a look at further, because we understand there's some staffing implications, and if we're going to do that, we want to make sure that we're consistent in doing that. But at a minimum, that email notification, we will work on building that into the system.
So in staffing implications, because we all face the staffing implications in our office in the sense that we have a lot of activity happening and limited staff, is there a way to work with and possibly Franklin Fire and Police cadets to help set up a database of these are the following people that need to call? Or is there a possibility of getting volunteers to come in and remind people, here's the process, here's what you do, it's going to expire? I mean, I think we have to be very proactive in this measure, because staffing will always be an issue for us. And in ways that maybe we reach out to ASU and look at some of the vistas that are possibly going into the field and use their community service time towards that. I don't know. I'm just being creative.
So Chairman Noakowski, Vice Mayor Pastor, we will most definitely go back and talk a little bit further about what that could look like and make sure we be very creative in how we endeavor to do that. Yes, you're very welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to really thank you for all your efforts, and it's great to call you director. I mean, Marshall started with Councilmember Johnson working the community and then to the mayor's office, and now you kind of understand what we go through, so it makes our jobs a lot easier. So good choice, Chief. Thank you. And thank you, Director.
I didn't even know that. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
All righty. Item number 11, the new Phoenix Police Youth Programs. We have the chief.
So
All
good
yours,
morning
Chief.
to Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. We're introducing a new program to the Phoenix Union High School District and to the community. And the program is really designed to capture and catch those kids who are not artistic necessarily, don't play sports necessarily, but a way to reach kids and provide them with credits and the ability to hopefully later have a trade or a job or a profession when they're through the program. So with that, I'd like to have Commander Tom Van Dorn, who is running the DRAG program, speak to you about the brief PowerPoint presentation we have.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This started with Oxnard PD over in Oxnard, California. They are the main central host for the actual program. Since then, various chapters have begun. There are various chapters in California, in Nevada, and now we'll have the Phoenix DRAG program. There we go. Again, it is going to be designed to be an after-school youth automotive program whereby it will combine police officers, educators, and then individuals from the automotive industry. It's a 32-week program to provide them with technical skills. We are currently looking, all of the details all still being worked out. We're hopefully getting ready to kick this off at some point in time in January. But the curriculum has been developed with the Phoenix Union High School District. It will likely kick off over at the Trevor Brown High School out in the Maryvale precinct. The school will identify those individuals. We're hoping to have at least a class of 30 at-risk youth that the school district and the school will identify. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions. Right now, as far as the fundraising arm, that would all be handled by the Phoenix Police Foundation.
And if I may interject, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, we do have one officer assigned to run the program. So Matt's in the audience today, but we have one officer assigned to run it, and then the nonprofit piece will be run through the foundation.
Any questions from my colleague?
So the general fund impact is what, one officer?
Yes.
And do we get any feedback about the City of Phoenix Police Department having a program with drag racing in the title?
So it does say drag racing, but what it really is more of a building of a car rather than the actual act of drag racing. The kids build the car, they wrap the car, and then they get the opportunity to express and share to other kids in the community how they were able to do something from the ground up. And obviously it came from Oxnard, so when we say Oxnard, people get a little crazy sometimes. But it was a really good program and a really good way to connect the automotive industry, students, and the community all together. And the graduations are amazing. The kids light up when they can show you what they've built.
If we love stealing stuff from Oxnard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, any comments?
I do. Let's see, if we could go back one slide. Says students earn high school and community college credits. How are they doing that? I mean, I know how they do the high school piece because it's part of their curriculum there, but where's the community college coming into play?
You bet. Mr. Chairman, Vice Mayor Pastor, credit has to go to Officer Matt Chernick. In all honesty, when we assigned him to kind of be the program officer and coordinator, he took it and completely ran with it. So in discussions with Phoenix Union, we will be the first of the various drag chapters. He also reached out to Maricopa County community colleges, like Glendale Community College, provided them with the 32-week curriculum, and it appears that we have the college district on board that is willing to offer these kids college credit for completion of the program in addition to the high school credit.
So who's paying for that? Because when you offer college credits, they have to pay for the college credit. So that's where I'm trying to figure out, or are they, I don't know who the officer is, or are they receiving dual enrollment? And if they're receiving dual enrollment, then the high school teacher has to be accredited with the community college. So that I'm trying to connect and put the pieces together so that it could happen.
Yep, Councilman Nowakowski, Vice Mayor Pastor. So we worked pretty diligently with the high school and the dual accredit office.
Okay, so it is dual.
It's dual accredited, and the high
what I'm
school
checking.
actually is
Yeah.
graciously enough giving us the coordinate or the instructor for the program.
So then that's what I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out. They're going to be getting dual credit.
Yeah, and
Got it.
Phoenix Union Community College just changed their program, so this is going to have a huge impact positively on the way that those schools are rated. So they're head over heels excited about the opportunity.
Yes, Trevor Brown, definitely. Metro Tech has an automotive, so Metro Tech will probably be next in the bucket. And then I'm trying to think we're trying to build one on the east side, so there'll be one on the east side coming up. So that's why I was trying to, okay, let me put these pieces together to make sure it happens. Because then they can get a certificate.
Yes.
That's ultimately what we want, is them to be certified, so then they can get the job. So that's where I was putting my mind together. Thank you.
Sounds like you're a board member. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, Chief, I just want to let you know that in the Maryville and the Estrella Mountain area, that you have two community action officers that are just fantastic, Rodriguez and Lacker. They're out there, they help out with the car shows, they're out there dancing with the young people, getting involved and participating. I mean, it's just really that connection with the youth that police officers earn that respect, and I just want to let you know that those two community action officers are just incredible. I know that all of them are, but especially those two that I've been able to see it firsthand. And I know that these types of programs really change people's lives, is that we're using education as a way to end domestic violence, gang violence, and all that. So thank you so much.
So Officer Lockhart, that's where he went? He went to you?
Yes,
Oh, okay, because I want him back.
too bad. Like we're having fun with the microphones. All righty. We're going to be talking about Proposition 301 and Block Watch grants.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. I'm Mike Kurtenbach with the Police Department. With me is Stacy Osborne Fry, also from the Police Department, our Fiscal Management Bureau. You may recall in June, there were some questions that were raised regarding expenditures as related to Proposition 301 for the Neighborhood Block Watch grants in the Police Department. And we're here today to hopefully answer those questions and any additional questions you may pose. So with that, I will turn it over to Stacy.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. So the item that you have in front of you explains how the Proposition 301 came about, the portion of it that does go to police and fire, and then broken down even more to the portion that goes to the police department. So part of the questions that came up at the June meeting were, how does the Neighborhood Block Watch distribute those funds? So what we have here is there are categories. So consumables is one of the categories. This is the general distribution of those funds. This isn't necessarily all that's able to be spent with these funds. So we have the consumables, we have the equipment, and all of this was in your packet, just the operational, the personnel, and then what we've done is put 3 months worth of distribution, or I'm sorry, 3 years worth of distributions together for you so that you can see exactly what portion of the funds go to which category. So this is the 2015 grant year. The total awarded was over 1.3 million. There was only 33,000 that was declined, and let me explain that. What happens is once the City Council approves all of the awards, we notify all of the grantees that they've been awarded, and there are times when they have, in between submitting the application and getting to the award period, their group has maybe fallen apart or they don't have anybody that can sign, so they actually end up declining the award. So this is 2015. And as you'll notice, operational expenses is going to be across the board all 3 years, the highest expense. And then we have 2017, which is the grant year that we just did, so we don't have any declines yet, thankfully. But as it stands right now, again, operational expenses are the highest. The Proposition 301 funds that are earmarked for the police department were set for hiring, obviously hiring 200 additional officers. With B&R reports, we show that that was stalled in 8 and 9 due to the recession. The fund is now fully balanced and funded, so therefore the target is to achieve the 3125 by June of 2018, and the current authorized position count is 211. Of that, 108 is filled, and we're obviously progressing to have all of those filled. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions from my colleagues?
One of the
Member
questions
Davis.
we often get is in terms of the youth program eligibility for Block Watch. Will you help us answer that better?
So the youth programs that are funded with Block Watch are affiliated with a school district and with a neighborhood Block Watch. So those two entities partner together, and what we get as a result is a wake-up club. Those wake-up clubs are done through the schools and with an officer that is also assigned with the wake-up club. The officer has no signing authority on the grant. They're simply the mentor for the program.
Wonderful. So you have to have both a neighborhood and a school.
Absolutely.
Vice Mayor?
I want to go to the Wake Up Club.
Okay.
Because they're, the chatter was that the officer that oversees the Wake Up Club was now being reassigned. And so I just want to get clarity on that. If we still have a Wake Up coordinator, director, I don't know what you want to call it, manager, overseeing that program.
So Chairman Nowakowski and Vice Mayor Pastor, let me address that. As you are keenly aware, earlier this year, we reallocated certain officers from specialty positions back to patrol to meet operational needs. But we're very mindful not to reduce or eliminate programs specifically as it relates to our Wake Up. So we did not lose any connectivity with the program. We haven't lost any functional oversight. The program will continue to be robust. Just to Stacy's point earlier, addressing Councilman Gallego's question, there were some concerns that were raised about the officers being signers on these grants. We eliminated that. We didn't believe that was appropriate. But in terms of the program, which we recognize is incredibly valuable, and the oversight of the program, that position and that function is still in place.
Councilmember Williams?
Thank you. Do you keep statistics on the participants in Wake Up so that we know if it's effective? Because if we have something like that, that eliminates any challenges.
So the officers that are helping to run the Wake Up Clubs do keep track of the participants. Unfortunately, there are times when they start with obviously a certain number, but by the end, that number may not be the same. It may have declined, but it also may have increased. I think they run into issues with depending on the involvement and the permissions from the parents as well. So they do absolutely track what they start and how they progress through the year.
Okay, so if asked, you could show how many kids went through the program. Do they do any follow-up? I mean, isn't this to prevent them from any criminal activity and gangs or whatever?
So Chairman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Williams, oftentimes there are those informal bonds that are formed between the officers and the kids, and as they move on to high school and they progress, we don't have formal mechanisms in place, but because of those connections that are made at those younger ages, we tend to see a lot of those informal communications still happening. But yes, the whole idea is to give them positive options as opposed to maybe engaging in some negative behaviors.
And as part of the curriculum, do you teach them whatever the officer says you do?
Within reason, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions for my colleagues?
Yes.
Councilmember Day?
I'm not sure if I should ask this on this item or the next one, but in terms of some of the eligible things, could you talk a little bit about lawful traffic mitigation devices and how you prove it's tied to crime prevention with the traffic?
Sure,
Speed bumps.
that is the next item on the
Okay,
agenda.
I will wait then.
Okay.
It's in both
We'll be
of
happy
them.
to address that, absolutely.
Any other questions? Vice Mayor?
For the operational, I think of gang events. I think of other neighborhood block watch events. And that's really where a lot of the operational is coming from.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilwoman, Vice Mayor
You're fine.
Pastor. The operational expenses are also like the fuel reimbursement for the Phoenix Neighborhood Patrol. That would be considered an operational. We also, a lot of the groups ask for cell phones in order to have that communication throughout with the Phoenix Neighborhood Patrol. That's also considered an operational expense.
And I noticed printing, copying, mailing, delivering fax service, neighborhood newsletter and announcements are in here because I think at one point there were some block watches questioning this piece. So it is part of the operational.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they are able to either distribute those newsletters through the mail if they want to, or through email, that type of thing. But anything to get that communication out to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Any other questions from my colleagues? Well, thank you so much, Chief. Thank you for the report. And is there a website, or if somebody's watching on Channel 11, they want more information, they want to get involved with Wake Up or any of these great programs that we have, is there somewhere they can go to?
Absolutely. You can go to the Phoenix Police website. On the website, there is a notation for the Neighborhood Block Watch, and that will put you over to that website, which also has all the announcements for the grants.
Thank you
And
so
when they
much.
come out. Thank you.
And with that, we're on item number 13, where we're going to be talking about the budgets from our different offices.
Oh, wait,
Uh-oh,
12.
uh-oh.
What about 12?
Where's 12?
Oh, wait a minute. I was thinking, yeah, we've got 12. I was
We got
thinking-
14.
Oh, it's
14's after.
14 is what I'm
Okay.
interested in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yep, that's what I got was next.
We're on the budget, yeah. Yeah, we have budget, then we have the block watch grants.
How funny that it's not together. That's separate.
It's an add-on.
Oh,
All righty,
Okay.
it's all yours.
okay.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee. My name is Jill Salai. I work for the police department, and I'm going to give you an update of our budget through the end of July. For 1 month, we have spent 9% of our budget Right now, we should be at 8%, but we have a lot of one-time charges that hit the first month, like clothing allowance and some of our insurance premiums that we have to pay the first month. And for July of this year compared to last year, we're 5% higher. And that is due to, in July, we were able to get a purchase order in for a lot of our ammo for this fiscal year and to start the beginning of the replacement of our vehicles. And also, it's the second year of concessions for employees. Our top 10 expenditures continue to be personal service type items. I want to point out a couple of items that we have on here is overtime. Compared to last year, this year we're $500,000 under than what we spent last year. And then as you can see, our motor vehicle, it's our purchase order for the beginning of replacing all of our vehicles. And then for revenues, we continue to have the grants, court awards, vehicle impound, false alarm, pawn shop, special events and SORO program, and the IGAs. And the one with the largest variance is the court awards, and that one is due to last year. We had not requested the funding from the county yet for our court award allotment. And if you have any questions.
Any questions from my colleagues on the budget for our police department? Thank you so much. Talk about fire next.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and members of the committee. We might have been a little bit more of an overachiever because we did 2 months of expenditures, so sorry about that, Jill. But at this point of the year, at 16% of the year spent at 2 months, we're at 15%. So we're right on target is where we anticipate. Usually get started a little slow in the first part of the year. So there's the July and August expenditures. Again, nothing really remarkable. The first month we pay a lot of the first-time payments and those kind of things, but we're still tracking at 10% of expenditures at 16% of the year. So, much like the police department, we expend most of our monies in salaries and other salary-related type things. Just like Jill had mentioned with the police department, in our overtime category that is the one that's the most challenging is constant manning fire, which we're under currently. And we anticipate that staying that way throughout the year. Largely has to do with the positions that were hired over the last year or so. So that's good news for that. All the rest of the expenditures are pretty much right on target. And in terms of revenues, again, the ambulance transports is slightly down. However, that's kind of a cyclical program. We're not anticipating underperforming this year. It's how the money comes in. The other two revenue areas are 100% cost collection, so we don't anticipate those being anything but what they are. And then lastly, we were asked to at least say or make a mention about grants, and our last year grant expenditures, grant awards were $13,275,000. That includes all federal and state pass-through grants. That's all I really have. Any questions?
Any questions from my colleagues? Thank you so much. Now to our courts.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. My name is Patricia Lucero, and I'm here to present on behalf of the Phoenix Municipal Court. As you'll see at the end of the first month for the fiscal year, the court is at 9% of the budget used. Our expenditures for July are there's a little bit of a high variance, but that has to do with the court encumbering some funds for our jury duty services. So previously, last year, it was encumbered in July of this year. Previously, it was encumbered in August, so that'll level out in the next couple of months to follow. Our expenditures, similar to my counterparts here, is the personnel and employee salaries and benefits that make up the top 10% of the expenditures for the court. I'd just like to point out on that contractual transportation, that number is part of that encumbrance for the jury mileage fee, so that's why that number is looks like that. Again, that'll balance out in the next couple of months that are coming. And then revenues collected, We are slightly under, but we are also expecting, there's a differential in that amount due to not having received a fair payment yet. So that will, in the coming months, will also balance out, and it'll show that we are slightly where we should be on track. Any questions?
Vice Mayor,
No, I have questions for police and fire.
already?
And the question is going back to September 30th. Is that cost already in the expenditures, meaning the overtime of the
Donald Trump?
Donald,
You said
oh,
September.
I'm sorry, August.
August 22nd?
August 22nd.
That is not included yet because we're just showing you actuals through July.
Okay,
It usually takes about at least a month after an event before we actually capture all the overtime of who worked that event.
okay, because then I would be anticipating then it would be higher.
Yes.
Okay. And same, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for being good stewards of our tax dollars. Now we're on item number 14. We're going to be talking about the changes in the 2018 neighborhood block grants. Welcome, Madam.
So Chairman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee and Councilman Gallego, to your question earlier, hopefully we can address it now. We've asked the chairperson of the Block Watch Oversight Committee to come join us. Councilman Nowakowski, I believe you know Carmen from the Lindo Park community. We're very excited to have her on board, and we asked her to join us at the table today so she can answer specific questions that fall under her purview.
So
with
Carmen,
that-
you're the backup, huh?
I'm the backup. With a smile.
So with that, I'll start with Stacy.
So the item that you have, is it working?
Shall we switch?
There we go. So the item that you have in front of you are the changes that have been voted on and approved by the Oversight Committee. They are changes that they are requesting to the 2018 application guide and grant process. They are enumerated there for you, just in case you have any questions. I know that one of the issues that you have, Councilwoman Williams, is item H on the second page. So just so that you know, last year in the 2017 grant process, there were 2 grants that requested gates and fencing. Those applications, one of them was denied. They did not score over the threshold, which is 5.25. And the request was for pool fencing around a community pool. So the Oversight Committee had reviewed that and looked at that as an HOA item, not a block watch item. The other item was gates and fencing, or a gate for an alley. $2,000 of that grant was line item vetoed. And in the meeting minutes, it talks about the questions of right-of-way and easement, of the ability to put the gate where it was.
Mr. Chair?
Council member?
Since that time, though, the city now has a pilot program to close alleys. And so I don't know if we just make recommendations today, if this moves forward, because I think it is very appropriate for this grant to pay for the gate, the installation, and the keys. I think this is an ongoing transient problem we're having in alleys, and so I think it's very important that this is a big crime prevention.
Chairman Nowakowski, Councilwoman Williams, on item H, if you prefer to not have that included in the application guide, you can deny H and simply say that you want the application guide to say fencing and gates. Again, this is just a word removal by the Oversight Committee. It is not a prohibited item. It is not being placed on the prohibited item list. It was just a word removal in the application itself. But we, absolutely.
I think this is the list you gave us of what's appropriate or
So the
should be
list
approved?
that you got in the last item was what the grant money had been spent on in previous years. It is not a complete list of what is in the actual application guide. And I'll be happy to forward that to you if you'd like that.
So
Vice Mayor?
is the wording that we're speaking of right here regarding the application, what's
Guide.
going to be in the application and the guide?
Correct.
Okay. So, I would concur with Councilwoman Williams regarding the fencing, because we are facing that. And there are certain neighborhoods, or all neighborhoods, but there are other neighborhoods more in need, I guess, or would not have the funding versus other neighborhoods that the possibility of them rallying together and raising the funding for gates. So I don't know if, I guess I would want some thoughts around that as to considering removing it. Or background, I guess.
On my notes already.
Okay.
For our
All
next
right.
meeting.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask another?
Absolutely, Ms. Councilmember Williams.
As part of this alley closure, I've learned, working with Cactus Park Precinct, when we have problems, if we light it up at night, our problem scatters. They don't like the light. And so is it permissible for them to put a dusk to dawn light in an alley under this grant if it's appropriate and there's enough spacing?
No, go ahead.
Yes, it absolutely is. What we ask is, and what the Oversight Committee asks in the application process, is that there needs to be an exact placement of where they are talking about putting that light so that they can confirm, the Oversight Committee can confirm that it is private property. If it's public property, is it the HOA property or is it city property? So we're just trying to verify who actually can agree that the light can go in that placement.
And how would they present proof to you? Because alleys are usually the property owners, they're not public, but they do have utility access.
So what they do is they submit to us a map of the location with the exact location of the light marked on it, and then we can verify as city staff whether that's public or private property. And we work with the streets department and city departments to ensure that we understand the easement. They also are allowed to ask for a dusk to dawn lighting on their personal property that would actually light up the alley.
Vice Mayor?
Regarding the dusk to dawn, only because Pearson neighborhood, I'm thinking of a neighborhood right now, all my neighborhoods are participating in this, but Pearson neighborhood in particular, they're up against the canal. And so in their block watch, they asked for approval for the lighting of the stretch of where they are on the canal. So I guess my question would be, now that we're doing the Grand Canal, who's responsible for that? In the sense of the city is now revitalizing the Grand Canal, and now will the city take on that responsibility?
So the lighting, Vice Mayor Pastor,
okay.
Pastor, the lighting at this point is, through the applications, is dusk to dawn lighting that is supposed to be energy efficient.
Right.
And the light bill itself, there's a restriction on how many dollars can be spent per year on the light bill, which can't exceed $3,000. And at that point, the person requesting the light is the person responsible for the electricity bill and the maintenance of the light. So that's why there's a definite, issue with making sure that is the light on private property or is it on city property?
So if it's on city property,
We don't usually fund lights on city property.
all right, I'm gonna go do some digging.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm probably Vice Mayor is more knowledgeable about this, but should this be LED lighting?
Yes, and it
and
should
what-
fall under 2,500 kelvins.
And if it doesn't?
Well, then, I think in the application, it has to be 2,500 kelvins. That's the highest that they can go.
Councilmember Gallego?
Could I ask my question?
Yes. Absolutely. Councilwoman Gallego, the traffic mitigation devices are in the application. This is something that we work with the streets department. So they do a survey to ensure that where it is actually a crime prevention device, that it's slowing traffic down in the neighborhood, that it doesn't prevent police and fire from getting into the neighborhood. And I believe there's also a petition process that all the surrounding neighbors have to also agree that that's the right placement of a traffic mitigation device. And they are the slow hump, not the large humps that you'll see in parking lots in places. They're more of just a slight raise in the pavement.
How do you know if it's a crime prevention device?
So working with streets, with police as well, they look at the location. They do a speed survey as well to see what the general speed is down the street. They also look at accidents in the area to ensure that this will prevent those type of things in the future.
If I may?
Yes.
And all that documentation is required to be submitted with the application so that we know that all the testing was done, all the surveys were done, the neighborhood agrees to it, that type of thing. So that's all part of the application before we can approve the grant.
But we assume if it's required to control traffic, that is a crime prevention device.
Yes.
So it's really the streets test is whether.
And the speed, absolutely.
And on the youth-related programs, the tournament entry fees and things like that are only for wake-up clubs, STEM
Yes.
programs?
Yes, they're related to youth programs.
And that, we can, in our packet, we got to see what the proposal was, but not what it was before. So right now, it looks like there was a change in promotional items to $3,000 per year. Was that an increase or a decrease in what we could spend on promotional items?
I'm sorry, which item are you looking at?
42, and it says restricted items, the box,
I think it went
and
down.
it's
Oh, on
at
the
the bottom.
application.
Did you want more promotional items or fewer, I guess, was the change?
I'm sorry. I'm
Page
not
42. It's in the it's the packet.
Apologize.
You don't have
Let me
that.
rephrase the question. $3,000 for promotional items seemed to be the largest category anywhere, which mean that the best thing we could do for safety was promotional items. And I need convincing on that.
That was a decrease to start with, to answer your first
Okay.
question.
Thank you.
We felt that it was important to get things, and quite frankly, I'm using one of the promotional items right now, which is a pen that says Lingle Park Neighborhood Association Block Watch, Crime Stop 602-262-6151. And that's the type of information we want to get out. We get that information out on flyers, on pens, on gift bags, and whatever we can, just to get the information to the public and to our neighbors that there are things that we can do to prevent crime in our neighborhood. We were getting some requests that we felt were beyond reasonable. And so that's why we asked for a reduction in the promotional item expense, because it was just, we think it's important, but again, it doesn't need to be the entire grant either, so that was the
Okay,
reason.
so we're
that-
promoting the number. Actually, okay, I'm glad I
We're
asked.
promoting
I
the
actually
number, we're
feel
promoting the-
significantly better
yes.
about that then.
Good.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
Any other questions for my colleagues? I have a couple questions on Carmen. On item number, it's B and E, and it talks about the scoring, the minimum scoring of 5.25, and also if you fail to answer all questions. Is there a training process? Because I know that there's a lot of new Block Watch groups that are starting, and I know that all of us are advocates of starting new Block Watch. And sometimes starting a group, the lifeline is these grants, and they really depend on them. Some people think that the question asked isn't, they skip it because it doesn't apply to them. Is there some type of training or somebody that's out there and helps?
Councilman Nowakowski and the commission, the members, we have at least 2 trainings citywide for Block Watch. We go over the application grant line by line to be sure that everybody understands it. We will do any addition, we have 2 scheduled every year. And we will do any additional grants that are requested. One of the things that we're looking into, though we haven't firmed it up yet, is trying to do something in Spanish, because a lot of our Block Watches are concentrated in neighborhoods that are heavily Hispanic. So, but right now, we're doing, for sure, two training sessions every year, and then any additional that were requested.
And with those two, if you can pass on those dates to my colleagues and the other council members, we have newsletters and emails, and we can Facebook and use social media to get that word out there, because I think it's so important that people get trained on the process, because sometimes they skip something and not knowing that their application is going to be tossed out. Thank you.
And Chairman Nowakowski, just to add to that, police staff is readily available. It's noted on the Neighborhood Block Watch Grant site. There is actually a video training that walks people through the grant management system. And in addition, police staff has met with people personally. We've actually gone out to senior centers and sat at a computer and walked people through the process, helped them log on. We're readily available to anyone who wants to apply.
Well, thank you all, and especially all the volunteers that go out there and protect our neighborhoods and help our police officers out there. So thank you.
Wait,
With that, oh, one more question. Uh-oh,
do we need to make a motion on this, on the
I'm sorry.
changes?
Sorry about that.
Didn't want to miss that
All
opportunity.
righty.
And I'm not sure exactly where these fit, but on, it says personnel, contractors, labor for lighting installation. Can we add and alley gates?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because we're denying H, which now will allow the gates, but I want to make sure that the installation would be covered as well. I think that's it, yeah.
Is there a motion?
I'm moving that.
Second.
All right, we have
You
a,
move that we will accept it as written, except for we will allow gates
I'm
and,
denying H
uh-huh.
and adding that the installation for gates as well as alley gates would be a legitimate item.
2,500 kelvins.
Oh, yeah, and the 2,500 Kelvin alley
It's the
lights.
highest.
they got that engraved, huh?
Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Now we're called to the public, seeing that we have no cards. Future agenda items, any of my colleagues?
I would love to hear, when our folks return from being deployed with FEMA, I would love to get an update on their service on hurricane relief.
Perfect. Vice Mayor?
I would also like to talk about, I don't know what the new term is, I only know the old term, MROPE. And I want to update regarding the whole program because I just have a lot of questions.
All righty. Councilmember Williams?
Not at this time.
You know, I have a couple, one of the things that we heard over the summertime, over and over, is just the rescuing of hikers off our mountains. We need to look at some way to, do we recover any of those funds? How? And if you can kind of explain it to us, and at the same time come up with some solutions or some ways that other cities are recovering some of that funds, or if there's somebody goes off a trail that they shouldn't be climbing up a cliff, can we actually fine them or so?
Especially if they deny services when you get them down to the bottom.
Correct. All those. So I think we need to prepare ourselves for this coming summer. And then the other thing is, one of my colleagues, I think everybody knows who would be, talking about the light rail security and crime rate around the new light rail extension. If we can just have an update of, has there been an increase, hasn't there been, and what steps are we taking to secure those light rail stations? Any other?
I think this bounces through several committees, so I don't
It
know
does.
where this would land. But I would also like to speak about having outreach, I don't know what they're called, outreach coordinators or outreach team that to discuss a plan to have them on the light rail platform along with our officers so that when they're on the platform, they can ask, would you like services? So I would like to, this is all part of the
Right.
public safety light rail. I was gonna say that yesterday, but I forgot.
Oh,
I don't know what committee it lands in.
But you wanted part of the discussion that we have here.
Well, we could have it here and then we can also have it in transit.
yeah,
Okay,
it's usually in transportation, but I think it's legitimate, but.
Okay.
through
Just
here
to talk
too.
about security, yeah,
okay.
and the impact of crime in the neighborhood.
We'll do it.
Alrighty, with that, any other future agenda items?
Yeah.
Uh-oh,
no,
uh-oh,
I'm
waited
sorry.
too late to say
Yeah,
sure.
you paused, you shouldn't have paused. I understand that there's a big coordinated effort amongst all departments dealing with transients.
Yes, that's why I want this whole MROPE. I guess
don't know what
it's
the name
called
of it
Phoenix
is. I haven't been
Cares
briefed.
now. They're calling it Phoenix Cares, but yes, because that element of what I'm asking for on the agenda is all of this.
So should we
well,
just
then
Phoenix
have,
Cares.
We
I
have
would like
that
to have
on
a
the Shen
presentation on
subcommittee.
that,
Yeah, see, it's crossing all committees.
because I think it's dealing with the homeless, the transients,
Mm-hmm.
and all the problems associated thereof.
Yeah.
It is, it's a coordinated effort to make sure that all of the city departments are coordinated in what they're doing. And there's also some linkages to some of the nonprofits in the community that are doing similar kind of work. So it's consistent with what you had asked to see better from us a few years ago in terms of, you know, silo busting and working across the organization as a single entity. This helps us to do that.
Mr. Mahoney, maybe what we could do is make a recommendation to do a policy session where we can all hear it. Maybe we can send it to, ask the mayor
I'm
to put out
sorry.
a policy
Oh, for that item?
on that item, and this way it crosses all council districts, so. It'd be good to have input from all of us, right?
Yes, I agree. I have another thing. You shouldn't keep pausing.
Okay.
I see where the legislature is considering changing how judges are elected and how fines are collected, and it would eliminate a lot of city court. Could we have somebody review that and bring it to us? Because somehow there's a misconception that they are cash cows, and that is not the case, especially in the city of Phoenix. I'm pretty sure general fund helps support our court system, so I think it's good to get the information so we're prepared if legislation drops in January on this.
Councilwoman, are you wanting a report or a presentation here?
Both.
Okay.
Homeless and enrolled is on the future agenda.
Alrighty, any other questions? Meeting's adjourned.